Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I can't be with you live, but it's 3 a.m. or so here in Sydney at the moment as you're kicking off this workshop. So I just wanted to share a few thoughts to throw into the mix as you explore this really important topic for solar. Learning analytics is obviously a multidisciplinary field with both intensive quant and qual methodologies in play. And there's always been good work on the ways in which quant and qual research can embrace greater openness, and it is a spectrum on different aspects of open science and scholarship. So first, perhaps no-brainer, we should obviously be building on the good foundations that have already been laid around this rather than reinvent any unnecessary wheels. Quant and qual traditions bring their own flavors and constraints, and our task is to clarify how learning analytics work can move along each spectrum of openness. If we just to take a look at some of the ideas that have been presented in the past, the Von der Zee and Reich paper on open education science I found very helpful as a good introduction, and I'm certainly no expert in this field. They talk about the whole research life cycle from open design to more openness of data, to more openness of analyses, and finally to open access publishing. Well, I think that, with LAK and JLA, we're obviously doing quite well on the open access publishing, but this is really where the action is, right? So first thought, well, look, learning analytics is an ethical, data-intensive field. We pride ourselves on thinking ethically about data, and we understand, both the power and the limitations of data sets for yielding insights. And that's a principle that we can extend from simply thinking about the way that we use data sets as educational institutions or presenting data back to educators or students. Now we're talking about sharing data with our peers, potentially unknown peers, but sharing that data in ways that's insightful and helpful. We should know something about how to do that, right? So arguably this positions as well for open science. We know that data is never raw. We know that classification schemes have politics. We know that insights don't just drop unproblematically from visualizations, et cetera, et cetera. So I'll put it to you that we have a data literate skill set that many other disciplines don't bring. We know how to curate and integrate and share data sets in helpful, responsible ways. We know how to both adopt and adapt and share automated or semi-automated analysis workflows to help with making analyses more reproducible. Not all fields know what a Jupyter notebook is or have automated data workflows. We could, for example, know with much more confidence how to adopt or adapt an automated service that de-identifies texts by removing named entities, etc. We understand how that technology works more deeply than someone just pulling it off the shelf, for example. And we are a community amongst many who know how to adopt, maintain, and adapt open source analytics tools. So many of the community are already using R and open source text analytics and et cetera, et cetera. So good skill set to have. Arguably, if a human-centered, analytics-intensive community like us can't develop effective open science practices, who could? I'm not here preaching to you from the pulpit. This is as much a challenge to myself. And just as I was thinking this through, I found myself wondering, well, why don't I do this more myself and in my team? And the fact of the matter is that it feels like more work, the incentives aren't there, and I'm reflecting deeply on that. So 3 concluding thoughts. Perhaps in the course of this workshop and in the deliberations that follow to the creation of the solar position paper, is there anything distinctive about learning analytics which we think sets up particular obstacles for open science? Or is there no grounds really for a special pleading? We just have to get on with it. Of course, we have qualitative data in some fields that must be treated with care. Thinking about my own work with reflective writing, that some of that can be deeply personal, very hard to de-identify that in a large data set. Okay, second thought, much learning analytics work has quite a strong exploratory flavor, which means that the analyses we do are often informed by what we find in the data. And of course, with machine learning, there's a whole arsenal of techniques that we can just pull off the shelf and could be used uncritically, but even when they're used responsibly, there's a whole array of techniques sort of inviting us to use them to see whether we can see something new. So perhaps there are concerns in some quarters that the idea of pre-registering research designs, specifying in advance what the analyses will be, would be a straitjacket on exciting data science flavored research. And final concluding thought, maybe we should have an open science special issue, which serves both as a showcase, showing how openness can be increased on the different aspects of the research lifecycle, and certainly showing what this looks like with the different methodologies that we find in the field. My thought would be that this also has really honest critical reflections from the authors on the challenges that they encountered en route. Because we do want open science to be a practical reality, not just this shimmering aspiration that we all think we should be doing, but somehow never quite get round to. Okay, I'll stop there. I hope that adds a thought or two into the mix, and I really hope that you have a great workshop and look forward to catching up with how it went.